gentleman you may know from his books, The Education of Millionaires, published by Penguin, and The Power of Eye Contact, published by HarperCollins. One of these books is the book that Vishen says is one of his favorite books of the year. Where's Vishen? Is he in here? Which one is it, Vishen? It's Millionaires. The Education of Millionaires is the book that Vishen says is one of his absolute favorite books of the year. Now, this gentleman is also a columnist for Forbes and writes daily about entrepreneurship, love, and spirituality. He has a huge following of fans, and he is here today to share with us a powerful message about networking. Please welcome Michael Ellsberg.
You think you're here right now for a little dose of awesomeness, but actually what you're here for the next 30 minutes is a religious conversion. And the particular religion of which I'm a missionary, and I'm going to convert every last one of you in this audience, is the religion of connecting with powerful and influential people. Everything good in my life has come through this power. The most important connection I ever got in my life to my wife Jenna came through a mutual connection, someone we both knew. My book deals have come from that. Most of what has happened in my business life has come from that. And what I'm going to do in the next 30 minutes is share with you some secrets that are going to super sauce this power in your life. It's a sacred super sauce, connecting with powerful and influential people. So you might ask, well, what do I know about this? Why should you listen to me about this? I wrote this book called The Education of Millionaires here. And what I did is I spent 2 years going around the country interviewing people who dropped out of college or didn't even go to college and who society said were going to be failures and flipping burgers. You remember one of the rules that Vishen mentioned yesterday about going to college? These are people who broke that rule, and everyone told them they were going to be a failure. Well, these people I interviewed didn't end up flipping burgers, didn't end up washing cars as janitors, etc. They ended up as millionaires and billionaires, self-made. So I interviewed all these people. I got to interview Dustin Moskovitz, who is a co-founder of Facebook, the world's youngest billionaire at, I think, 26. I interviewed Peter Thiel, who was the first outside investor in Facebook. He turned $500,000 investment into billions of dollars. I interviewed Sean Parker. Has anyone seen the movie The Social Network? He's the guy that Justin Timberlake played. Much nicer in person than in the movie. So I interviewed all these millionaires and billionaires, and I thought I was going to spend a year after this book came out talking about education, because that's what the book is about mostly, is how to educate yourself. But to my surprise, nobody asked me about education. The thing they all asked me is, how'd you meet Sean Parker? How'd you meet Peter Thiel? I want to meet Peter Thiel. How'd you meet him? Now, I knew almost none of these people. I interviewed about 50, 60 people. I knew maybe one or two of them before I started this project. And I got to all these people. And I thought that's just what people do, is kind of get to powerful and influential people. But what I learned was that that's actually my special power, and that other people wanted to know how I did that. So most of my talks after this book came out started to be on this topic, and that's what I'm going to share with you right now. And there's basically one really important point, distinction, you have to get if you want to be good at this skill and bring all the benefits that I've already mentioned into your life. And it's a distinction between two types of networking. It's the right way and the wrong way. And my guess is that a lot of you unconsciously are doing the wrong way, just because most people do it the wrong way. And I'm going to teach you the right way. So the wrong way is a kind of taker attitude, where you walk into a room, you assess, who's the most influential, who's got something you want, who's got a list that you want access to, who's got a website you want access to, who's got investment dollars you want access to. And then you go and you try to get that from them. So it's a taker mentality. In fact, in preparing for this talk, I've done some research. I've found some shocking statistics about this. Here's a headline that comes from one of our nation's most trusted news sources, The Onion. And The Onion tells us that 89% of networking is non-consensual. I'm just going to read you a few highlights from this here. Hold on a second. The details vary, but in each case, the victims described how ordinary chit-chat rapidly escalated to terrifyingly detailed conversations about skill sets and career paths, said sociology professor Thomas Raybeck, the study's lead researcher. Even though most of the respondents said that they began to feel uneasy and sensed something was wrong, it usually happened so quickly that by the time they fully comprehended the situation, it was too late to escape. Has anyone been a victim of this type of networking? Right? We all know it, and we wouldn't laugh if it wasn't true. And they have a few safety tips here for networking. Let's see here. Mace or pepper spray can disable a networker long enough for you to flee or knock the portfolio out of his hand. Always walk with purpose. They will make a networker hesitate before asking for a name he can use so he can go around the general human resources email. So that's the wrong way. So I'm going to teach you the right way. The right way, if the wrong way has to do with taking, the right way is the opposite. It has to do with giving. Not giving so you can get something in return. Like, oh, if I give to this person, then maybe I'll get something from him. But just giving, period. So you can ask, well, what do I have to give? What do I have to give a powerful, influential person? They're powerful and influential and rich and famous. They've got all the goods. They've got all the juice. What do I have to give to them? What I'm here to teach you is that you actually have two very powerful things that you can give to people you might want to connect with, and that you should practice giving selflessly without expecting anything in return. The first thing is advice, and the second thing is other connections. Now you might think, Michael, you're crazy. How could I give this famous person advice? They're the ones I want advice from. How am I going to give them advice? Well, this is a really, really, really important point for you to get, and I learned it by meeting these billionaires, these rich and famous people. Often when you meet a famous person or a rich person or someone who's very powerful, we kind of cower in front of them like they're a god or goddess, like our party last night. We cower, we think, oh my God, this person is so powerful, I'm not worthy, like Wayne's World, I'm not worthy. And that's about the worst attitude you can have if you want to be good at this, that I'm not worthy attitude. They get it all the time. I've hung out with these people. I've been in cafes with them. People walk up with that kind of like, oh my God, can I have your autograph kind of thing. That attitude isn't going to get you very far. The attitude you want to have is shocking, and that is that this person is actually a human being. They're not a god, actually. They're not a goddess in any literal sense. They're actually a human being, and because they're a human being, that means that they have problems. Is there anyone in this room who has no problems whatsoever? I want to meet you and find your secrets, right? We've all got problems. There's one of my mentors, Eben Pagan, says that there's three basic areas of life that people really care about: money, relationships, and health. And there's subcategories. Within relationships, there's sex, there's love, there's all kinds of things. But those are the three basic areas that people care about. I would add a fourth, which is spirituality, purpose, meaning, a lot of things we're talking about this weekend. So there are four areas that people care about things in. And my experience is that no one's got all four of those areas handled exactly the way they want. Oftentimes people are very, very successful financially, but their relationship life is a mess, or their health is a mess. Or they've got one of those areas handled, but they don't have all four. Now, very likely, you have something to offer in one of the areas that they don't have fully handled. So that's where you can add value. That's how you can give, is by offering in the areas where you have some strengths, relative strengths, and where this person you want to connect with might need some help. And I'll give you an example. So each one of you has an area where it's very likely that you can offer a lot of help to people around you, including to powerful and influential people. I happen to be a book author. I've devoted my life, my adult life, to writing books and to being immersed in the book industry. So I know a lot about books, and I'm constantly talking to people about the books they might want to write. In fact, just this morning, I asked Vishen, are you going to write a book? And he said, one day. I've never met somebody who doesn't want to write a book. Is there anyone in the audience who doesn't want to write a book ever? How many people want to write a book? Almost the entire audience. So there's an area where I have a relative strength that I can add value. I can offer value to all of you, and including to powerful and influential people. So I tend to, when I'm talking to people, steer the conversation towards books, because that's I call it the home court advantage. If I'm talking to a movie star, I don't know anything about movies. I've never been to movies. So if I talk to them, this is what most people do, is they say, oh, you're a movie star, that's so amazing, I love your movie, blah, 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 about movies. Well, that's where they already have what they need. They don't need you for that. They're already successful there. But if I talk about what I'm good at, then we can actually have a conversation about something that I might be able to add value to, because a lot of people haven't written books who want to. And what I suggest is another area that I have this value in is copywriting. So before I was making my living writing books, I've always been a writer. One of the best ways to make a living as a writer is through copywriting. So I would steer the conversation of business people I would met towards the copy on their website. And I would subtly suggest that maybe the copy could use some help, and that I'd like to offer that help. Not for money. Again, we're not talking about selling here. We're talking about giving. So all of you have at least one and probably two or three of these areas where you have a home court advantage, where you really know about an area that is useful to a wide range of people and people would love your help with. And it doesn't have to be just about business. It can be about relationships. If you are in a successful long-term marriage, you're an expert in relationships. Everyone needs help with that. If you happen to lose weight yourself, even though you're not a fitness trainer, but you know about how to get in shape, that's an area you can help. So I'd love to just hear a few ideas here, either business or personal. Who has a suggestion of an area where they might be able to have a home court advantage and add value to people? Can I see some hands? Yes. Yes. Okay, great.
I had a friend in the last year who lost about 45 pounds and told me how he did it, and at first I didn't think I could. And he just planted the seed and let me get comfortable with the idea. And he was like, why don't you try it for 3 weeks and see how it goes? And from last year to now, I've lost 30 pounds. And but what most excites me about it is that one of my jobs, I work at a restaurant, and I've known a lot of these people for years. And I hadn't worked there for a few years, and I came back. It's a bar and grill, so they have burgers and beer. And we all drink after work. But a lot of them had put on weight in the past few years because they got lazy. They just opted to go with the unhealthy choices because it tasted good. And by seeing the changes that I went through and me talking to them about how I did it, I've helped a bunch of people lose over 100 pounds, like, and counting, you know.
That's fantastic.
So.
This is an important point, did you charge money for helping?
No, absolutely not.
That's the key point right there. Thank you so much, that's great. Let's hear one more from a business area. Does someone have, we heard a personal area, does someone have a business? How about way back in the room there, where you can help in a business sense?
I was an early adopter on LinkedIn and use it extensively, both for inbound and outbound. And so one of the areas that I help people with, or offer to help them with, is to improve their overall LinkedIn experience profile groups, outbound discussions, marketing, all that. And that's been an area where people have been very receptive to my help.
That's great. Thank you. So here's the key point. Does anyone in the room know somebody who might need some help losing weight? Anyone, right? We all know somebody who needs help with that. Does anyone perhaps could use some help with their LinkedIn profile? Anyone? I barely even understand LinkedIn, so I could use your help. Right, so here's two people in the audience who have incredible value to offer to anyone. And what I'd suggest is that you have at least 2 or 3 areas, whether it's in business or personal, like this. And this is actually, I want to make a distinction here, this is actually the foundation of good sales also. The best way to sell, in my experience, is to become essentially an unpaid consultant for a brief period of time. And just instead of trying to get them to buy your stuff, you just start advising them on the area of your expertise, and they see how awesome you are, and they want to work with you. So this actually melds into sales, but I want to make an important distinction. When you're networking, you are not trying to sell them on something. You actually have to make a decision. There's like a switch in your head. Is this someone that is a sales prospect for my business, or is this someone I want to connect with? And you have to keep a firewall between those two things, because if you start trying to lead someone that you want to bring into your personal network and build a relationship with, who thinks building a relationship is helped by trying to sell someone on your services? Anyone, right? That's like the worst thing you can do to build a relationship, is to start with trying to get money from the person. So decide if this is someone that you want in your network, in your sphere of influence, in your circle of relationships, in your tribe. It's actually probably better to just be of service without trying to steer them into a sales conversation. But the two are very similar, because when you do want to sell, you should actually do the same thing. You should give. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to actually demonstrate in front of you, with one of you, how I do this networking effectively. So I'd like a volunteer to come up, please. First hand up, right there. Great. Let's get a mic for our volunteer. What's your name?
Jolette.
Jilla.
Jolette.
Oh, Gillette.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Great. So this is going to be a little more awkward than it might be in a natural setting, because we usually don't have lights on us and 200 people watching. And we have a little more time than we will. We'll do it kind of fast. But I want you to pay attention to 3 phases of this short conversation we're going to have. The first phase is what I call chit-chat. That's your normal cocktail party banter. Where are you from? What kind of business are you in? You have to have that. It's awkward if you just start in and say, hey, how can I help you? How can I be of service? Right? So you build a little bit of rapport. The problem is most people stay at that level of chit-chat. They say, oh, that's so nice. Oh, I love the weather up there. Oh, yeah, my sister is from there. My sister lives there. How many people think that's a great way to build connections? Right? We want to just get away from that conversation. So quickly after chit-chat, you're going to move into the inquiry phase, which is when you inquire about what this person's up to and what they might need in their life and how you might help them. And the third phase is what I call adding value, which is when you proactively add value. So we're going to just give this a shot real quick right here. Hey.
Hey.
Hey, what's your name?
Jolette.
Jolette, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
How did you find out about Awesomeness Fest?
Oh, my friend and business partner Kiva told me about it.
Just hold a little closer.
Yeah.
This is your first time?
This is my first time.
What's been your highlight so far, other
Oh
than
my
being
God.
on stage?
Meeting all the people. I just love everybody here. It's awesome.
Great.
Really.
Where'd you come from?
Los Angeles.
Cool. So this is your normal cocktail party chit chat, and it's fine. In fact, it's necessary. It's awkward if you don't engage in this kind of stuff. But the problem is when you get stuck. So now we're going to move to the second phase, which is called inquiry. So Jolette, what kind of business are you up to?
I teach peaceful parenting, and we train parenting coaches to be peaceful and conscious.
Wow.
In their
How'd you
parenting.
get inspired to do that?
Having a son.
You needed some of your own medicine?
Yes.
And what's most in your business right now, what's most exciting to you? Like when you wake up each day, what's that thing that you're thinking about the most in your business?
I'm really enjoying hearing the stories from our parenting coaches now, that they're getting clients and they're transforming families' lives. And we had one the other day even say she thinks she just saved a marriage. And
Wow.
so it's really, that touches my heart a lot.
I'm just going to pause for a second. Did you notice a change in her voice when I asked that last question? So we're doing the chit chat, you know, where are you from? Oh, da da da. And then I said, this is a great question. What's most exciting to you in your business? And the first sound out of her mouth was, And then her whole voice changed, and she actually was talking about what she was excited about, which is exciting to her. And so all of a sudden, we're talking about things that matter to Jolette. I'm going to ask another question that can get to the heart of the adding value, or the inquiry phase. Right now, in terms of growing your business, what's the highest leverage challenge that you're facing right now? If you could just fix this one thing, what would take it to the next level?
Reaching more people.
Reaching more people. What are you doing right now to try to reach more people?
We're partnering with JVs, so we're partnering with people. But I believe just reaching more and more people.
When you talk to potential JVs, is there kind of a sales aspect to it where you're pitching a bit what you have to offer or what they have to offer?
Yes.
Cool. So I actually happen to know one of the top sales trainers in the country. This guy is a complete master of sales, and he's revolutionized my life, revolutionized my wife's life around sales. He's my mentor, and he'll pretty much talk to anyone I tell him to talk to. I'd be happy to connect him to you if you want.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great.
Do you have a card?
Sure. Here.
Great. Cool. Let's give a hand to Jolette. Thank you. And I will make that connection, actually, Jolette. I meant what I said. There's a guy called Brian Franklin, who's one of my main mentors in business and life, and my wife's as well. So I want to just point out a couple things that happened there about the phases. You saw the chit-chat, you saw the inquiry, you saw how we were talking about what mattered to her. How many people have been in a conversation where people are talking about what mattered to them, not to you, but to them? Right? It's kind of boring. We like, our favorite topic of conversation is ourselves. So if you're someone who consistently gets people into their favorite topic of conversation, you're going to have a lot of success connecting with them. But not just talking about it. Here's the key point I want to get to you. Proactively figuring out how you can add value. So I talked about giving advice. Another way you can add value, there's two I said. There's giving advice. So I actually could have given her advice. I know a lot about sales. But a second way you can add value is to make a connection. And this is one of those snowball effect things, kind of the rich get richer. You start with a certain number of connections. The more you have, the easier it is to bring more people into your tribe because you're constantly making these connections. And that's a great way to bring people into your tribe, is to connect them into your already existing tribe. So you might have to start small, but once you build a critical mass of amazing people, of awesomeness, then the mass just grows larger and larger and larger of your tribe. So the last really important point I want to make here about what you just saw stems around the idea of passively making yourself available to add value versus proactively seeking out how they need value. So a lot of times you'll hear people say, hey, if there's any way I can help you, let me know. Has anyone ever heard someone say that to them? Right? And it's nice. It's a nice thing to say. It's a nice thing to hear. But it has almost no value because, A, oftentimes we don't know how we need help. It's part of being a human. It's part of the human foible is that we don't know how we need help. And B, we're often not vulnerable enough to share with a stranger how we might need help. So what I've gotten really good at, and what I just shared with you, is gentle ways to inquire about how people might need help, and specifically to inquire in a realm where you can offer help. So if you're focused on giving, if you're proactively, gently, and it has to be gentle, Remember, you don't just start. So what's your biggest challenge? That would be a pretty unsuccessful way to start networking. So you start gently, you build some rapport. That whole conversation in a realistic setting might have taken 15 minutes, not 3 minutes. So you build some rapport, and then you start inquiring proactively about what's going on in this person's life and how you might be able to add value. And what I put to you is that if you go around practicing this regularly with everyone, not just famous, rich, successful people, practice it with everyone, starting right here at Awesomeness Fest, starting at the lunch break. If you go around practicing this, everything you want in life, from more business, more wealth, to the relationship you're looking for if you're single, to more renown, more fame, anything you want is available through this technique that you've just learned. Thank you so much. Thank you. Incredible. Thank you. Thank you.